forward. I need more folks down at the podium. Guys, can you fill in behind the scenes? Somebody up front. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll wait.
I just want the media to know that we're on time.
Who does the bell toll for?
Good morning. I am Jennifer Arbitier Williams, Acting United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. As you can see, I am joined by more than a dozen Philadelphia area leaders of federal agencies. We are here to talk about the unbearable level of gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. Night after night after night, shots are fired and people are killed or seriously injured. Just 2 nights ago, on Monday night, more than 7 people were shot. In fact, here we are, standing in the heart of this city, in front of Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell, the part of the city that symbolizes that we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet 2 nights ago, a man was murdered in a hail of gunfire just blocks away at 3rd and Chestnut Streets. At this rate, we are on pace to surpass 600 homicides this year in Philadelphia. That is shocking and devastating and nearly unheard of. Philadelphia hostage. Philadelphia is an incredible city, yet if we keep going this way, people will be afraid to leave their homes and people will be afraid to come to enjoy all the city has to offer. So today, we have issued a letter to the citizens of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania announcing our decision to come together like never before to use every tool at our disposal to find and arrest the most dangerous criminals walking the streets. Together, we are all hands on deck to support the Philadelphia Police Department and stop the violence. To give you a sense of how big this is, the federal agencies who have signed on to the All Hands on Deck initiative include FBI, ATF, DEA, DHS Homeland Security Investigations, EPA, FDA Criminal Investigations, HUD Office of Inspector General, ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations, IRS Criminal Investigations, the Department of Labor Office of Inspector General, the National Park Service, the U.S. Marshals Service, the U.S. Postal Service Office of Inspector General, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, the U.S. Secret Service, the State Department Diplomatic Security Service, and the Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General. Some of the agencies standing here today do not typically investigate violent crime, and yet they have joined us and stand committed to doing whatever they can to support the efforts of those who do investigate and prosecute crimes of violence every day. Because each one of these agencies has unique tools, resources, contacts, and smart, dedicated investigators. And when we are all working together to support one mission, it is a force multiplier. From obtaining search warrants to reviewing cell phone records and ballistics evidence to mobilizing our community contacts, we are sharing information and working every angle in support of our joint mission to stop the gun violence epidemic in Philadelphia. Here are some examples of what we're doing. Beginning this month, FBI is adding additional agents to its violent crimes and safe streets gang task forces, who will focus on investigating crimes with the most serious impact on victims, including carjackings, armed robberies, and gun violence. The Bureau will also task more intelligence analysts to this mission in order to better understand the networks operated by Philadelphia's most prolific criminals. In addition, the FBI will have more community outreach personnel working to expand its network of contacts and react to community concerns. ATF. ATF will provide additional support to the Philadelphia Police Department's forensic laboratory to ensure that evidence is quickly entered into the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, also known as NIBIN, which is critical when it comes to quickly tracking leads. Likewise, ATF has launched a crime gun enforcement team to handle immediate follow-up on NIBIN and gun crime intelligence information. DEA. DEA's violent trafficking program group combines DEA agents with Philadelphia and SEPTA police to combat drug-related violence. In just the last 6 months, this group has made nearly 90 arrests and seized more than $1.5 million in assets, helping to put a dent in the level of dangerous drugs, weapons, and criminals on the street. And many of our other federal agency partners have similar task forces and working groups to leverage resources and multiply impact. And you have my personal pledge that the U.S. Attorney's Office will prioritize prosecuting in federal court those responsible for gun violence. So what does this all mean? To anyone who might be thinking about picking up a gun in order to shoot or threaten or intimidate someone, I warn you. The moment you commit that violent crime, you will feel dread like never before, because we are coming after you. You will feel shame like never before, as your actions and decisions are aired out in open court for all to hear. You will feel regret like never before when your loved ones have to move on without you because you are spending years in prison. That's right, in the federal system, if you are convicted of a serious violent offense, you will be looking at years or even decades in federal prison. Some examples. Lukeen Gerald committed 7 armed robberies, firing his weapon during at least one and injuring a store clerk. Gerald was convicted by a jury and sentenced in March of 2020 to 56 years in prison. Donnie Smith and 2 co-defendants robbed a corner store in the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. The defendants walked away with just $100 after Smith pointed his gun directly in the victim's face. Smith and his co-defendants were all found guilty, and Smith was sentenced in February 2021 to more than 12 years in prison. Michael Hughes and his co-defendant committed 2 robberies in 4 days. They robbed someone from whom they were purchasing marijuana, and they robbed a pizza delivery person, shooting both victims in the leg. Hughes was found guilty and was sentenced just last month to 30 years in federal prison. Today, right now, the violent criminals in this city should be on notice that we are coming for you. We are outraged and we have had enough. And to those of you who might be thinking about committing an act of gun violence, don't do it. We will find you, prosecute you, and convict you, and you will go to federal prison for a very long time. The U.S. Attorney's Office and all of our federal partners here today literally stand shoulder to shoulder with the Philadelphia police to do all we can to reverse the trend of escalating violence. We have had enough. It's all hands on deck. At this time, I would like to introduce Police Commissioner Outlaw to say a few words.
Thank you, Acting U.S. Attorney Williams. Thank you for joining us today. I echo the same concerns as the Acting U.S. Attorney. The continued violence within the city is completely unacceptable. Just yesterday, we had 7 shootings and 3 additional homicides occur in Philadelphia. In fact, while conducting a car stop in Logan, Philadelphia police officers came upon an armed suspect. The male engaged our officers in a gun battle that resulted in an officer being wounded and the suspect being killed. We often discuss the scope of the problem with statistics, and those statistics are important to know. Statistics help us direct our efforts into specific areas toward that small percentage of individuals responsible for the bulk of crime incidents that our city is experiencing. Data helps us to make sure we don't over-police our communities and that we lock up the right people. However, what statistics don't show is the real impact that violence has on those left behind. It doesn't show how the continued violence affects people vicariously through continued fear, continued victimization, and continued trauma. The statistics don't show heartbreak and grief of the families that's felt when their loved ones are taken away. It doesn't show a child not being tucked into sleep by their loved one or the empty chairs at dinner tables, especially during the holidays. The lives of children and young adults are being cut short. And our future generations are being taken away. So far this year, 16 children under the age of 18 have been murdered here in the city of Philadelphia. All but 2 of them were killed by gunfire. Enough is enough. Since the first day I arrived here in Philadelphia, I've said that combating crime in this city needs a concerted effort from all government agencies. Our local, state, federal organizations need to work together to deter violent crime. Truly, we absolutely need all hands on deck. The PPD and our federal partners recognize the gravity of Philadelphia's plight. That is why this joint initiative was created. This joint effort will help us better address violent crime in our city. Our federal partners have pledged their talent, technology, and resources in a combined effort to stem the tide of our violence in our city. Perhaps most importantly, they have demonstrated their willingness in bringing charges to federal court. You've heard me say time and time again that people who commit violent crime must face serious consequences. As Acting U.S. Attorney Williams just pointed out, federal sentences are measured in years, not months, years. It doesn't get much more serious than that, folks. That is why I am pleased and excited to be here today to discuss our joint efforts with these federal agencies. We all know that the Philadelphia Police Department has a huge share of work to do, and that we cannot and we will not do it alone. We gratefully and humbly accept any help offered to us. And this initiative will benefit how our department investigates and solves crimes. This initiative will ensure that we are given added support where needed, at a time when it is needed the most. I want to thank all of the agencies that stand behind us today, including the FBI, ATF, DEA, DHS, and all of the federal agencies that are a part of this initiative. You are not only helping the PPD do a better job in investigating violent crime, but you are also contributing to the safety and well-being of the millions of people who visit, work, and live in this great city. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take questions.
Acting U.S. Attorney, have you lost faith in the district attorney in this city? He's not at this event, and he is the chief prosecutor of the city of Philadelphia. Why isn't he here? Have you lost faith in him?
The All Hands on Deck initiative is not about pointing fingers, and it's not about placing blame for what has been happening in the past. The All Hands on Deck initiative is about looking forward and doing what we can do to stem the escalating violence in Philadelphia. We are doing what we know works, which is punishing violent criminals and putting them behind bars for a long time. That's what this is about.
Did you ask the district attorney to be here and take part in this?
Well, this is a federal initiative. This is not a city initiative. This is about what the feds can do to support the Philadelphia Police Department. So we advise the DA and all of our local and state partners about this initiative, but today is about what the feds can do.
Did you invite him? I'm sorry, did you invite the district attorney to come to this event and stand next to the police chief?
We informed the district attorney about today's event, but we invited the federal partners. Yes.
Can you just talk about how many, when you talk about the agents that are going to be kind
can't give you specific numbers, but you're certainly welcome to call the press officers of the individual agencies, and I'm sure they can give you more specific
FBI.
numbers. FBI, DEA, and ATF were the 3 specific agencies that I talked about.
Okay, and then for the commissioner, sorry, I mean, you can do better. However this
Fine.
works organizationally. Just there's, in Philadelphia, people, especially in the really hard-hit neighborhoods where there's plagued with violence, they told us they don't feel safe going even outside of their homes, and sometimes they feel safer by carrying a gun. Do you have a message for those neighbors who don't feel safe unless they actually do have a gun?
My message would be, again, for those who carry guns, do it legally. Make sure you know how to use them. Make sure they're properly stored. Train with the gun, right? I'm not saying anything against legally carrying guns. But again, there are also a lot of people that feel like they need to carry one just for the sake of carrying them. And where the problem lies is when these guns get into the wrong hand because they're not properly stored, or they fall into the wrong hands because they're intentionally being placed into the wrong hands, and then they're therefore later on down the road being used illegally. And we're seeing that more and more. So I'm not as concerned about those who are carrying guns legally for their own personal protection. I'm most concerned about those who are intentionally carrying them illegally to further perpetuate what we're seeing out here with these shootings and these homicides.
Yeah.
Question for Commissioner, and for you, Ms. Williams, I do. I know this is a little off topic, but while you're standing up there, in terms of the shooting with the officers last night, do you have any more information to provide, including why the car was stopped in the first place?
We'll be pushing out additional details as we get them. I'm trying to play that off like that wasn't a big B. As we get them later on in the day. And that'll come from our public affairs office.
And then in terms of President Biden today coming out with some executive orders around, particularly around ghost guns, just wanted to get your comment on that, as well as you, Ms. Williams.
Certainly. I look forward to anything that President Biden pushes out, anything that's in support of our gun violence efforts here. Obviously, the announcement hasn't been made yet, but anything that either condemns or any legislation that would make ghost guns illegal, anything that would push money or that would bolster crime prevention efforts, obviously we support. I can't stress enough how much federal support and federal alignment with what local or municipal agencies are trying to do to combat gun violence is helpful for us, because I think we often get forgotten when we're the ones on the ground doing the work. We need support, and it costs money to do that. Those who are out there on I'm looking at Pastor Buck over here. Those who are out here on the ground doing the work in the community not only need support from the police department, but they need financial assistance in doing this. So anything that the administration pushes out in support of the efforts that are already being done, I think will not only be helpful, but is also empowering and encouraging for those of us who are out here doing the work.
One right here for you.
Yeah.
2 questions real quick. You subscribe to the Broken Windows initiative that if you get stop a small crime, a small local crime, you will stop and prevent violent crimes from taking place in that neighborhood?
That's probably a more appropriate question for the commissioner, because we have limited federal jurisdiction. Commissioner?
Yeah, go ahead. You can answer that.
What's the question?
You subscribe to the Broken Windows theory that you got to stop the smaller local crimes first before they escalate into larger violent development.
I think gone are the days where we get to focus on one thing at a time or be able to prioritize. We have so many plates in the air. I think the appropriate question to that is that we have to pay attention to everything. We can't ignore lower level crimes anymore, or quality of life issues, because if they go ignored, they can in time turn into larger issues or larger crimes.
Not being prosecuted. So if you own a store and I come in and steal and get caught, I'm not going to get prosecuted for that retail theft. Other people are going to know about that. I might get a talking to, but then everybody's going to know, and everybody's going to come into your store, and you get 100 people stealing in your store, 10 of them get caught, nothing happens. Eventually, you can't stay in business, you close up.
I wouldn't disagree with you in that deterrence is important. And again, when we're talking about gun violence and gun crime, again, I would say that there needs to be something also, again, like a consequence to deter and disincentivize the carrying of guns illegally as well, which is why us being here today is so important as well. We're talking about federal prosecution.
Commissioner,
Commissioner, how do you think this program is going to make a difference compared to how the district attorney has handled crimes?
I think, again, with folks seeing that there are serious consequences for gun crimes or any other serious violent crimes, knowing that there's a serious consequence at the end of a violent crime will do, I think, quite a bit to deter the violence that we've been seeing. It's evidence-based, it's tried and true. This is nothing new, and sometimes you have to go back to knowing what works.
Was the district attorney too soft in some instances?
You know, look, the DA is the DA. You guys keep trying to get me to speak for the DA. The data is what the data is. I put the data out. We make the VUFA arrests. The conviction rates are going down. The trend lines are going up as far as the guns that we're getting off the street and the VUFA arrests that we're making. I've been asking for more and more consequences. We would like to see it. And if this, I don't care who does it, it needs to get done. Right? People are dying.
Commissioner, the department has struggled to clear cases, to clear murder cases. How does this help?
This helps us immensely.
How?
And it helps us because, again, you know, we talked about having force multipliers, right? Having force multipliers with assisting us with investigators, whether it's, you know, from other agencies. We talked about technology. It also helps us with the ability to train. There's so many other aspects. I mean, when we talk about what the ATF brings, we'll be rolling out our partnerships there. There's so many different levels as far as more eyes looking at these cases, and again, the tools that it brings to not only help us get these cases together faster for prosecution, but there's more people working on cases at once.
So federal agents will work homicide cases in this city now.
We're saying federal cases, well, you can speak, federal agents are looking at cases that qualify for federal prosecution.
Can we hear from the ATF? The head of the ATF, please.
Jeff, we'll follow up with you on individuals later.
No, I just had
Thank you.
hearing from the ATF, Jennifer. Because
Thanks,
we're going to
guys.
work guns, right? We're going to work guns. Can we hear from the ATF, please? Please?
I'm happy to tell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How many agents do you have working in the city of Philadelphia? Tell me what your attack will be on the huge illegal flow of guns in this city.
Yeah, first, before I answer that question, I just want to thank the U.S. Attorney's Office for organizing this initiative and our partners in the Philadelphia Police Department. The ATF has approximately 50 special agents in the city of Philadelphia, assigned to the city of Philadelphia, and we recently, through approval from headquarters, added in a fifth firearms enforcement group. That group is solely focused in partnership with the Philadelphia Police Department, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office, the Pennsylvania State Police, and other state entities in the timely follow-up and crime gun intelligence. So linking non-fatal shootings and homicides together, and then providing that support to the Philadelphia Police Department in order to help them solve those cases.
What's the flow of guns in this city? What's the source? Fraud purchasing, illegal buyers, a lack of failure to report lost and stolen guns? What's the flow?
The flow of firearms coming into the state of Pennsylvania and into the city varies, sir. From firearms coming from out of state to firearms being diverted in the state of Pennsylvania.
All right, we're good. Thank you. If you have any individual questions for the agencies, you can follow up with me and I'll hook you up with their PIOs. Thank you.
I saw Mark.
He was here.
What's he here for?
I don't know. I guess he's